Hey homebuyer, want to get a great deal on a home? You're almost out of time. Now before we jump into this, let's talk about the number one thing, which is if you can't afford to buy the house, don't buy the house. But if affordability is there, because that's discussion one every time, I'm going to outline some stuff that you want to think about in terms of getting that purchase done in the next 4 to 6 weeks before we get too far into January, because I think things are going to go a little bit different than they've been going the last year. All right, so for the last 6 months, longer maybe dating back clear into the spring of 2023, people have been deciding to put their home transaction plans on hold. And the reason is unequivocally, oh, we want better interest rates. So before we get into the market data and why I suggest that you get this done sooner rather than later, let's just think about interest rates. I want you to reframe your mindset on interest rates. One, again, affordability has to be there, but when it comes to interest rates, let's say you buy a house today and then we move forward 6 months. If in 6 months rates go up, well, you're doing great because you're not having to pay that higher rate, correct? If rates don't do anything, if they stay the same, it's not really a win or a lose. It just is. But if rates go down in 6 months, then you can refinance, lock in that better rate, and you don't have to pay the exorbitant amount of price jump that we expect houses to see when rates do go back down. So buying at today's rate is never a negative, because if it goes up, again, you're fine. You're doing better than you could be, right? If it stays the same, status quo, and if it goes down, you can always renegotiate a rate, but you can never renegotiate the price. So now, what am I talking about running out of time, right? We've been in these higher rates now for really since June of 2022. So coming up on 18 months. And that was supposed to drop the price of housing, but really all it did was reduce the number of people that could afford housing, right? The demand has not diminished at all. I talk to 20 to 30 new people every day, 5 days a week, who are thinking about transacting on a home, and I have been doing that for the last year, and I can promise you, there's still a lot of people that want to buy homes that have home buying plans. They just are waiting on rates. Now, affordability wise, it's done what it's done, and there's less people that can afford to buy homes right now, but they're all sitting on the sidelines. Trust me when I tell you, they're all sitting there waiting for the right number to come back in because they got knocked out. So if you can afford stuff and you're not actively searching and planning this out, it may bite you in the butt, and here's why. Once we get down to a certain number, I don't know what it will be or when it will be. My guess is it'll start with a 6, and it will be between now and election day of 2024. You're gonna see a floodgate open of buyers just jumping off the fence that they've been sitting on and getting into the market and buying houses. The second that happens, we're gonna have multiple offers on everything all over again, just like 2021. And I expect that means you'll have to compete with no inspection clauses. You'll have to compete with $20, $30, $40, $50,000 cash over appraised value, over list price, etc. So I'm no prophet. Anybody who says they know what the rates are going to do and when is lying to you, because no one truly knows. But I can tell you this much: we've seen 4 straight weeks of interest rates coming back down since the last Fed meeting. If that trend continues through December and we start making that transition from buyer season into selling season, I expect the fences to clear quite quickly, and you're gonna be back in a competitive market as a buyer, which can be a real tough go. So what should you do about it? Let's have a conversation. The very first step is take a look at that affordability, and that involves talking with a lender. I've got a half dozen great lenders. Whatever your need is, I can fill that, make that introduction, and you can even shop a few of them just to make sure you're getting the best rate. If the affordability comes back as something that looks like it is something you can do, then we should probably start looking at some properties, and we'll map it out from there. We've actually had a couple of great months this buyer season. Utah leads the country in transactions involving 2-1 buy downs, helping buy down that rate. We also lead the country in seller concessions involved in a transaction. I personally have been able to negotiate several transactions where the buyer walks into a home with equity and a rate below market rate, just because of the way we structured the offer And sellers that are selling right now are pretty motivated. They're willing to listen, and it's all about knowing how to structure a deal. So if you're thinking about it, I'm always open to have a conversation, no obligation. It's got to be right for you, but reach out, start the conversation, and we'll help you make the right decision for you.